Here we are again with our final 19th day of reading Habibi by Naomi Shihab. I'm going to be starting on page 265 with the chapter titled Map. And the quote that the author has at the top of this chapter is, "The calendar has a wide open face." Leanna lit one short candle in a blue glass cup and set it on the rug in front of her in her bedroom. Then she sat cross-legged before it. Everyone in her family had gone to sleep. Flipping open an old notebook she'd written in just before she left St. Louis, she read, "It is hard to find anyone else who will admit they do not want to grow up. My friends say they're ready. Claire says it sounds great to her. Mom says she felt relieved to get older, even though she loved Peachy. Finally, she was under her own jurisdiction. That makes it sound like a court case. Poppy liked growing up because it meant he could travel beyond the horizon. That makes it sound like over the rainbow. Why does everything sound like something else? I want a map that says, here is the country of littleness, where words first fell into your mouths. Here are roads leading every direction. Some people will travel many roads. Some will set up camp close to their first homes. Some will stop loving their early words. Nothing will be enough for them. Keep your heart simple and smooth." The entry ended there in midair without punctuation after a sketch of a circle with squiggly lines extending out from it. Sometimes Leanna felt tempted to draw a large X over the pages in her notebooks. Tonight she sat a long time before writing on the first page of one of the new blue notebooks Poppy had given her for her birthday. There is no map. She closed her eyes and waited. Then she wrote, "Every day is a new map, but it's just a scrap of it, an inch." Then she leaned back against her bed. "I like inches," she wrote. "They're small enough to hold." The candle flame was swallowing itself. She tipped the glass to the side so the hot wax wouldn't smother the wick. In the other rooms of the house, her parents and Rafiq were wrapped in their deepest, dreamiest breaths by now. She stood stretched and stared out the window into the utterly clear night. A few tiny lights blinked from poles to the west and the south. People she would never know were sleeping in their beds and turning over. An odd thought came to Leanna. Maybe this close feeling was a gift for growing older. Maybe this was what you got in place of all the things you lost. How did a friend change your heart? Could things still be simple? She didn't need everyone to know her, just a few people. That was enough. She needed her family, 2 countries, her senses, her notebooks and pencils, and her new devotion to trade. When you liked somebody, you wanted to trade the best things you knew about. You liked them not only for themselves, but for the parts of you that they brought out. It wasn't the beginning or end of any story, but the middle of what felt rich. And the next chapter, titled Doors. There was a door in the heart that had no lock on it. And that's the quote from the author. City wanted to show Omer her vineyard. She wanted him to tell her why her grapevines had dried up. Angels knew everything. She wanted to show him the treasures in her treasure box, the folded velvets and broken watches and golden buttons. She wanted him to travel with her to the Sea of Galilee. "Why him?" Poppy asked. "Why don't you want to go alone with me?" "Because he can speak Hebrew and you can't, and we may need it." It was so rare for City to leave the village. She wouldn't go to the Turkish baths and Nablus. She'd even decided to postpone her trip to Mecca again. But she'd been having a craving for the little crispy fish that were that were hot and served in Galilee. No elevators, she said, shaking her finger at Poppy. Rafik asked how she felt about boats. No boats. When they got to Galilee and found the old pink restaurant surrounded by a colorful clutter of buildings, they chose a green metal table near the water. Leanna's mother spoke to a waiter in Arabic even before they sat down, ordering water without ice for herself and hot tea for everyone else. Rafik ripped open a packet of crackers he'd had in his pocket and tossed them to 3 brown ducks who paddled up. He leaned over to feel the water. "Yikes, it's cold! City," he said, "let's go swimming." Leanna and Poppy pulled up an extra table so they would have enough room. The seaside breeze felt firm and cool. City held her open hands toward the small waves as if she could push them back. She mumbled something. Poppy conveyed she's blessing the energy, but she is also saying, "Rafik, stay away from me." Reading the menu, Poppy said, "What do you know?" and shook his head. "The tourist industry has found this place. Too bad. It used to be so quiet and tucked away. Now the meals have biblical names." They all ordered the same thing, Disciples Special, a holy, purified meal. A picture on the menu showed crispy fish, moons of lemon, mounds of rice. They drank their hot tea before the food came, toasting the sea. City gathered the empty teacups in front of her so she could read the grounds. She waggled a finger at Rafik and yacked excitedly. Poppy sighed. "She says you need to study harder." Leanna said, "I could have told you that without a teacup." Rafik lightly kicked her shin. Next, City gazed into Omer's eyes, then his cup. She spoke in a deeper voice. Poppy translated, "You will need to be brave. There are hard days coming. There are hard words waiting in people's mouths to be spoken. There are walls. You can't break them. Just find doors in them. See?" City's white scarf lifted in the breeze. "You already have. Here we are together." Omer said, "All that in my tea leaves? They're very talkative," and he smiled at City. Leanna's mother put her arm around Poppy and pulled his chair closer to hers. The sun was glistening on her head like a spotlight. City tapped the rim of Leanna's cup, tipping it back and forth. "I think she's cheating," Rafik said. "She's moving your leaves around so they say something better. Have you ever noticed how my cup is always bossy and your cup always holds a compliment?" He threw a hand to his forehead and Omer laughed. Sure enough, City said the leaves in the bottom of Leanna's cup promised her a beautiful future. "Revolting," muttered Rafik. "Walk and talk," Poppy translated. "Walk and talk." He tipped his head and winked. "She knows your specialties anyway," Omer whispered. City touched her first 2 fingers to Leanna's forehead and crooned. Poppy said, "She says you have a powerful world in there. Be strong. Keep letting it out." Leanna looked down at her own hands folded on the table and said very softly, "I'll try." Their full plates were arriving. City took a ravenous nibble before everyone else was served. She kissed her fingers. Another waiter collected the cups. Poppy sliced. He sliced and sliced. Was it tough? He took a tentative bite, beckoned to the first waiter, and pointed sadly at his fish. "I'm sorry," he said, his face crinkling good-naturedly, "but it is not quite delicious." And that's it.